Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some PathOfExile discussion. This is 2 days into the league, and normally at this point I would be putting together some instruction videos on how I recommend that you try to get yourself loot out of the new league mechanic. This league, I'm not going to be doing that, and that's because I quite simply don't know as yet. It seems to me so far that this seems to be fairly undertuned in the sense of rewards. Not necessarily at the top end, you will occasionally fluke something really good, and we have seen some pretty ridiculous rings going around already. Those are only going to get better. But what does seem to be really undertuned is just the generic loot that you get when you don't get one of these jackpots. So firstly, I just want to say one other thing that's a problem with the current Lake of Kalandra situation, and that is that there's a lot of Untelegraphed Danger. You'll find that there's a couple of league mechanics that are just miles more dangerous than you would expect them to be. Essence encounters, breach encounters, legion encounters. These are so much harder than anything else, even things that are several difficulty tiers above them, that I would definitely say that if your character can beat, say, a difficulty 8 map boss, then you probably still can't necessarily beat a difficulty 3 breach encounter or legion encounter, because the overwhelming number of monsters that spawn is just ridiculous. Likewise, the essence packs are really dangerous as well, but it's been the breaches that feel the most over the top to me so far. Now, I'm fine with over the top difficulty. I just think it should be consistently telegraphed, and so it should be very clear what you're getting into. If you're going for a breach, mark it as an extreme difficulty if you want to keep it where it is, and then people can say, you know what, I'm going to opt out of that, I'm going to take something else, or maybe I'm going to opt to put that only 2 away from the origin so that I know I can beat it. Otherwise, I think at the moment there's a bit of a problem there where you don't know when you're going to get smashed by something. So in terms of the loot now, if you get a lucky lake, it's actually kind of awesome. One top end reward has 100 times XP to all monsters on that tile set, on that island. Others drop all sorts of top end loot. There are some really impressive pieces of reflected jewelry that already exist in the league, and I expect that that's going to keep getting crazier and crazier as the league progresses. But if you miss the lucky drops, there's quite literally nothing else. Contrast this to Heist. You want to get a replica Shroud of the Lightless or a Tempering Orb, both of which I've been quite lucky and got this league, or something along those sorts of lines. Most of the time you don't get those big top-end jackpot drops, but you do walk out with something like 6 stacked decks, some bubblegum currency, like maybe you get 3 Chaos Orbs, 4 Elks, 5 Chances, 4 Scours, and stuff like that. Now, many of these consolation prizes in the lake do exist, but they come from the uncommon or rare Arch-Nemesis modifiers. Things like Effigy giving you a 6 White Socket item, things like a Temporal Bubble, I think it is, that can give you a 6 Link item. These are pretty rare, and they're not exclusive to the Lake of Kalandra content. If you go mapping, you'll find the same number of these roughly. If you go run Heist, you'll find the same number of them. If you go run Delve, whatever, you'll find the same number of these things. And so they're not really a reward for the Lake of Kalandra, they're just a reward for killing rare monsters. Now, I think the main thing that's missing here is near misses. If you're playing Expedition content, you'll get a whole bunch of fractured items. Most of these will be rubbish, but once in every few dozen, you'll find something that's genuinely very valuable. Now, because 1 in a few dozen of them are actually genuinely quite valuable, you do pick up all of those items that drop, those fractured items, you identify them, you drop most of them back on the ground, but at least you feel each time you do this, hey, I almost got something good there. And there's a bunch of other mechanics that are the same. You get things like double corrupt rare jewelry, double corrupt rare jewels in various content. Now, this is usually garbage, but about 1 in 100 of them are actually already quite good, or at least they're mythic or bait. I know that for a period I was using a corrupt amulet that dropped for me when I was running Heist. I dropped a corrupt amulet, it had 5 good mods on it, plus a decent corruption, and it was like, you know what, this isn't perfect, it's not endgame gear, but it's exactly what I need right now. Or you'll get something like a synthesis item. Vast majority of synthesis items that drop are bad, but there's a potential for them to be that +1 frenzy charge ring or whatever. These items all have potential, so we look at them. We recognize we've got a drop, we look at them and we go, yep, no, that's not what I wanted. Now, the Lake of Kalandra might have these, but first impressions is that it doesn't. So why aren't the armor chests dropping something that's interesting, like double corrupt rare gloves, uniques with wild off colors and the like? Most of the time we're still not going to be interested, but at least there'll be a chance of getting something good, and you'll feel like you're getting close to getting something quite frequently. Now, it might be that the mechanic is overly complex. It might be that someone at GGG is watching this and thinking, do X, Y, and Z, and you'll get heaps of loot out of this. Our records show that 11 people have already figured this out in League, and they've got 47 mirrors between them. Now, if this is the case, don't buff the loot, but hint at what X, Y, and Z are. Because right now I think the Lake is giving people a bad first impression, And I don't normally say this about content. I certainly think that sometimes there's been a knee-jerk reaction to buffing loot when it hasn't needed to be, Delirium being the most extreme example of this. But I do think that Lake of Kalandra is a quite different scenario where it just doesn't feel like you're getting much at all, and it feels like you should stay mapping instead, even leaving aside that mapping will pick up things like getting your Atlas filled out. The maps themselves just feel like they've got more loot in them than an equal level Lake of Kalandra tablet. Anyways, that's all I got for now. May your Varlobs have interesting results, and I will see you around.